Hello, Internet. I forgot that I reorganized my desk and where my mic was this week. Welcome to this week's Lunch and Learn in the Know episode. Very excited to have you all here today. So, I've seen a lot of this going around this past week where business owners are not really sure how to talk to their audience right now. They're not, everybody's trying to figure out, like, okay, we've managed to get our business up online. We're selling products, we're selling our services online now where we don't have to actually like meet people face to face. But now, how do we actually market those services? And I've seen a lot of mistakes happen. I've seen a lot of kind of really terrible marketing happening out there over the past week or so. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit today, like how we can actually figure out how to talk to our audience when we're in a crisis situation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this crisis exactly. There could be any number of crises in the future, unfortunately, that might happen. But I wanted to specifically talk about, just how do you talk to your audience in a crisis? And I hope it's helpful for everything that's going on right now. So, one bit of really terrible marketing advice that you might have seen making the rounds on the internet because it went viral for just how terrible it was. Someone on Twitter, and I won't say his name, tweeted this lovely little bit of hustle advice. If you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, your side hustle started, more knowledge, you never lacked time, you lacked discipline. And then a few hours after that, he followed up that tweet with an offer for people to join his online course. So that, obviously the more knowledge and the side hustle could come right out of this service that he's providing. Okay. So I get that in his heart, he is probably trying to help people by saying, "Oh, here's a business opportunity that you can learn how to take advantage. Like you can learn how to take advantage of this right now. Here's the resource from that." And the guy lists in his profile that he is a marketer, so ostensibly he should know how to be reaching out to his audience about this right now. But the way that he did it, like I said, he went viral for how terrible his attempt at pushing his product was. So you don't want to go that direction at all. The other direction that I've seen going around is I've seen ads for products lately, like, for example, shoes. How do you sell shoes when everybody is stuck inside? That's kind of hard because shoes are kind of they're either a utility product where people are trying to figure out where people are using it to walk around, they're using it for a specific job, something like that, or they're a vanity product that people are selling for like the status and that sort of stuff. So how do you sell a product like that? That's really difficult. And the one ad that I saw that kind of that I wanted to use when I was making an example of this is they were selling, it's like, okay, you're staying inside, but that doesn't mean you can't look cute. Buy our shoes. And I'm not going to say what company it was because, you know, there's no reason to, but, it's, that's not a terrible example. It's just not effective. And so we're going to talk about a couple things today to make your marketing more effective and keep it out of the going into just outright going viral for being terrible mode. So the first thing that you need to think about when you're trying to talk to your audience during this is you need to be human. So I know that, we talk about so much in marketing needs to be so much in marketing comes from authenticity, and you have to start with authenticity and blah blah blah, and to the point where the word authenticity gets overused and it has almost no meaning anymore. So I really encourage you to kind of take a step back here, and when you are writing out your marketing posts, when you're writing out your promotional posts, just be human. What emotions are you going through right now? What emotions are your team going through right now? Is there something that you can do that, just kind of think about what you're going through right now. And if you try to erase all of that and put all of that aside and pretend like it's not happening and then write your marketing content like it's not happening, it's not going to connect with everybody else, because everybody's going through the same thing right now. Everybody is stressed. Everybody's trying to figure out ways to deal with this. Everybody is terrified of or stuck inside. And so we're all dealing with all these same emotions. So if you try to pretend like those emotions aren't impacting buying decisions, then your marketing just isn't going to connect. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to really be human. Talk about what in your organic marketing, talk about what your team is doing. If your team is doing something where they're like having a fun costume contest for morale, share photos of that. If it's okay with, get the permission of your team, but share photos of that. If you're doing something where, somebody like where your team is trying to help out other people in the community, whether that is shifting your product focus from making shirts to making masks or something like that, write about that in your organic content. Now, with that, you can slip over the line into being like gross and promotional, so be careful of that. But if you are doing something good in the community and your first motivation is actually to do good with that and not to use that as a marketing tactic, then yeah, talk about that and talk about why it is that that you want to do that. That you feel like, hey, we see this shortage, we have the ability to do this, we're gonna go, we decided that we had a role to play in this and we're gonna step up and serve that role. Something like that really can be effective in reaching out to your audience, because people are going to come out of this whole situation remembering how companies treated their community, how companies treated their employees, and how companies communicated to their audience in a crisis. So be human. Talk about what your team's going through. Talk about what you are going through. Talk about how you're trying to give back or how you're responding to things. That should be your first bit of advice there. The second bit of advice is, once you figure out how to be human, figure out how to be a leader. So if you are, if you're a coach, I'm actually going to use an example here of one of my clients. One of my clients has a coaching program and a podcast. Her company is called Build a Life After Loss. And what she's been doing since all of this hit is she's really been doubling down on Facebook Lives and webinars and really trying to reach out to people and connect with people. Because what we're all going through right now is we're all grieving. We're all dealing with a grief situation because we've lost our routine, we've lost our way of life, we've lost human connection with people. We've really lost a lot with this new normal. I'm not really sure it's going to be normal, but who knows? So we've all lost a lot, and that prompts a grieving response from all of that. And so with Build a Life After Loss, she has been really taking the lead in trying to help people identify, this is the emotion that you're dealing with, here's how to handle it, these are the steps that you can take, and providing opportunities for people to connect with her, to listen to her podcast, and to learn. And so if you have something like that, where you can actually help people identify what's going on in their lives and help lead them to a better place, then absolutely take advantage of it. And I'd be willing to bet that that's more people, or, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I don't really have anything to do with that, I would bet that you probably do. So, for example, another way of you could demonstrate leadership or show leadership with this is if you have a product company and you're switching to making products for health workers or masks or something like that, you can show why. And you can also demonstrate leadership. For example, if you are making masks, You can demonstrate leadership by saying, okay, we're making these masks for the public, but we're also making these masks that might be, like, for example, built a little bit more carefully, a little bit more designed for medical standards. And if you buy a mask, that one of these masks that's designed for the public, we're going to donate some of these masks. That sort of thing. So there's a lot of ways you can demonstrate leadership with that, whether it's giving back, whether it's trying to help people understand what they're going through and get them to a better place. There is a really big opportunity here for you to demonstrate your company's leadership. And as long as, with the caveat, as long as that leadership is helping people get to a better place. Don't come in and tell people that, if they're, for example, the viral tweet that I talked about at the beginning. If you're coming out of this and telling people you lack discipline because you didn't start a side hustle or you didn't start a business during quarantine, that's not leadership. That's negging people. Okay, that's putting people down and not building people up. Okay, so if even if the only leadership that you can demonstrate through this is by coming out of this being positive and being positive, being maybe not inspirational, but instead of spreading fear and spreading depressing anxiety thoughts, you're spreading hope, you're spreading joy, you're spreading optimism for the future. Even if you can do that, if there's not anything that you can do in your business necessarily to demonstrate leadership, but you can spread optimism to people, that's leadership. So it can be just as simple as that. The next thing that you can do when you're communicating with your audience is you have to think about where your audience is and meet them there. All of our routines have suddenly changed. We're on about 1 billion Zoom calls a day. We're not driving to work anymore, and maybe we're doom scrolling through Twitter all the time, So think about where your audience is in all of this. So for example, there's a community group for women entrepreneurs that I work with, and I work with their social media. And one thing that we've been trying to do, the group is called Womenpreneurs. One thing that we have been trying to do is, one, on our social media, we're trying to think, okay, where are we? This is the part of being human. Where are we with all of this? What can we do to help our audience? That's the leadership part of it. And then how do we get in touch with them? So there's a couple ways that we're doing this. One, first we identify like what our emotions are, what our processes are that we're going through with all of this. Then what we did is we're putting together this series of events. We're calling them happy hours, work from home happy hours, where we're coming together to discuss like one aspect of social distancing life. The one that is coming up this Friday is for moms who are suddenly trying to balance working from home and dealing with kids. And I'll put the link to that in the comments after I'm done with this video, if there's anybody that would find that useful. So so we're doing this event, trying to bring people together to help lead people out of, even if it's just connecting to talk, provide that social connection again, but we're also connecting to try to help give each other advice and some peer mentoring. Now, I don't have kids, but I recognize that other people in our community really do have kids, and they're really struggling with working from home and dealing with, the emotional labor of running a house, as well as the labor of dealing with children and trying to work. So you can demonstrate leadership by recognizing that, your audience might be dealing with something in a way that's completely different from how you're dealing with it, and developing things that are designed to help your audience. Then you need to meet your audience where they are. So when we're putting together this event, for example, we realize we have to check with a couple of mothers in our audience to see, okay, what time of day is going to work best for you. Then how do we get that out to our audience? Well, our audience is mostly on Instagram. They're probably on Instagram more than they were before necessarily. And what they're looking for is inspiration, and they're looking for ways to connect. So you don't want to post things that are gloomy, that are, again, you don't want to post things that are spreading anxiety or fear. You want to post things that are identifying what people are dealing with and in a way that people can connect with. So when I say, meet your audience where they are, it's not just where they are physically right now or where they are technologically, it's also meeting them where they are emotionally. So you might be farther along the path now of, adjusting to all of this with social distancing than somebody in your audience is, and it helps if you can recognize that and still meet your audience where they are to talk about these things. And that can be in the form of uh, uh, that can be in the form of funny memes. It can be in the form of something inspirational. So when you're thinking about where your audience is emotionally, what's going to connect with them better? Is it going to be something funny, or is it going to be something that is thought provoking and inspirational? So think through all of those things. Where is your audience emotionally, physically, technologically, and then meet them there. Finally, when you are trying to talk to your audience, you got to put their needs first. Okay, so a lot of this marketing that I mentioned that is the bad marketing that I've been seeing, the reason that it's bad marketing is that it's not putting the needs of the audience first. It's putting the business's needs first. Basically, it's coming in and saying like, hey, I've got this product, it's really great, buy my stuff. And this is a trap that entrepreneurs fall into all the time, where if you build it, you think they'll come. And that mindset all that mindset can work when things are good economically, just because things are good and there's less risk. But when it comes down to it, when things are bad economically, bad socially, everybody's stressed and worried, then it becomes a lot harder to sell that way. And in fact, it becomes almost impossible to market that way and get leads that way, because it's fundamentally selfish on the part of the company. It's basically saying, "Hey, I need money. Take this crap and give me your money." It's not talking about what the value is for the customer at all. So you have to put the needs of your customer first. A really great example of this that I saw was mid-March. Mid-March, St. Patrick's Day, one of the biggest days of the year for the beer brand Guinness, because it's an Irish beer. Everybody goes out and drinks like buckets of Guinness all night long. So it's a huge day like for Guinness as a company, but if you have people who are going out during a pandemic, then people are going to die. And you don't want, and so when I'm saying put the audience's needs first, what Guinness did is they came out and said, we'll celebrate St. Patrick's Day another day. They actually came out with a really touching ad talking about community and how we come together during hard times and good times, but that this year we have to stay home, and that we'll celebrate St. Patrick's Day another day. Okay, so Guinness is probably seeing like this massive hit to their finances because people didn't go out and drink. But what they did is they put the needs of their audience first, and they said, look, the money is not as important. You have to stay home or, people will die. And that's what's important, is public safety, is public health, the health and safety of our audience. So, and this is why I say that, this is why I called out again that viral tweet at the beginning of this. The viral tweet said again, if you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, your side hustle started, more knowledge, you never lack time, you lack discipline. That's absolutely, like, you're not understanding where your audience is, and you're not putting your audience's needs first. Like I said, we're going through a grieving process here, and there have been multiple articles that have been written on how the panic and fear that we're all dealing with on top of the grief is causing it to be really difficult for us to focus, for us to think. It's an emotional reaction. We're going through a global trauma together. And so it's not rational to expect people to be disciplined with their time. It's not rational to expect people when, we just had something like 10 million people file for unemployment in the span of 2 weeks. It's not rational to expect people to think, oh, I'm going to go start a new business, because not everybody has that opportunity. So you have to think, where is your audience right now? Is your audience going to be able to afford something that you're selling right now? Is it going to be detrimental to your audience's health? Is it going to be, is this something that your audience is really going, is it going to help your audience's emotional well-being right now to do something like this? And if it is going to help your audience's emotional well-being, are you gouging people for that? Are you charging like a whole ton of money all of a sudden just because it's in high demand? Or are you more concerned about your audience's needs and trying to actually help your audience? So really think there about, what is the value that you're trying to provide to your customer? What is the value that is in, what is the value of your product? Why do you sell your product to people? Why do people buy your product? What's the pain that your product solves? And once you figure that out, if it is something that your audience needs right now, then talk about that. Talk about that like a human. Talk about that as a leader that's trying to help people improve their situation right now. And put your audience's needs first. If it's something where, you normally charge thousands and thousands of dollars for, maybe think about whether that is something that you can, you can extend a payment plan on. You can do like some sort of an exchange or a discount or something like that. I'm not a huge fan of like telling you to discount services, but for example, if you were running you were running a conference, and all of a sudden you had to move that conference online, are you still going to charge the same amount for an online conference that you were for an in-person conference? What if your goal with the conference is, or if you're marketing the conference is saying like, hey, we all need to connect, we're all starved of this social connection right now, come join this conference and let's learn from each other, let's have some interaction with each other, and yet you're still charging like what you would charge for an in-person conference, that's not putting the audience's needs first. That's putting, that's again putting your checkbook needs first. So think about those sorts of things when you're talking to your audience right now. And remember, like, what is happening right now is you're building up the long-term reputation of your company, because people will remember the companies that talked to their audience like a human. They'll remember the companies and the company CEOs that were leaders during this time and tried to help get people to a better place. And they'll remember the companies that actually put their audience's needs first. Like, for example, you're going to remember, if you've seen that Guinness commercial, you're going to remember that Guinness commercial. Whereas, if you've seen that bad viral tweet going around, you're going to remember that bad viral tweet. So people are going to remember right now how companies behave, how companies talk to their audiences. And so it's worth taking a little bit of extra time to think about what is the message that you're putting out there, and how, what's the message that you're putting out there? What's the motivation behind that message that you're putting out there? And really think through, how is it coming across to people who might be dealing with a really, really difficult situation right now? All right. I think that covers my little rant for this week. I hope you all are enjoying my new quarantine haircut. Next week we'll be back with more tips on marketing during this crazy quarantine. These tips will probably be going on for a while, because here in Salt Lake County, it looks like our stay-at-home orders are going to be extended through the end of May. Honestly, I expect that this, one thing I would say is that if you should be planning for this type of marketing and this type of messaging to be lasting probably throughout the rest of the year. I do not think things are going to go back to normal very quickly. So things are going to be tough for a little while, and it's a rapid adjustment for people. So start thinking about long-term messaging, long-term branding, and connecting, like I said before, connecting with people like you're human, being a leader and trying to help people through difficult situations and putting your audience first. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.